Alright, fight fans, welcome to Octagon Control MMA. I'm Dan. Today we're going to be talking about the possible lightweight title fight versus Dustin Poirier versus Michael Chandler. Both of them just fought at UFC 257 this past weekend. Neither of them expected to win their fights, but obviously they both won, and both won in impressive fashion. Michael Chandler first, massive knockout over Dan Hooker. Fantastic performance. A lot of doubters going into this fight on him. I will admit myself, I was a bit sceptical about how he'd do in the UFC. But knocking out a great fighter like Dan Hooker in the first round in particular, a massive knockdown punch, I think it's safe to say he is the real deal. Dustin Poirier fought Conor McGregor. Again, I don't think a lot of people were giving Poirier much of a chance in this one. I don't think many people thought it was going to be as one-sided as the first fight, but most people seem to think that Conor McGregor was going to win relatively easily. That wasn't the case, so Poirier took him apart and then got the TKO win in round 2. Okay, so first we'll talk about Dustin Poirier, then Michael Chandler, then side by side, path to victory for both fighters, then my pick at the end. Okay, so Dustin Poirier first of all. Main thing I want to say before we get started on Poirier is he said he doesn't want this fight, he wants a McGregor rematch. I understand fully why he'd say he'd want a McGregor rematch. That's his biggest payday without a doubt. My understanding is he earned $1 million for the fight against McGregor at UFC 257, and he'd probably earn more in the rematch, maybe 1.5, maybe even 2 million, and he might even be looking at pay-per-view points as well. So I understand why he wants to fight McGregor, but Dana seems to be alluding that him versus Chandler's going to be a title fight, and I think when he sits down and thinks about it, I think the title fight puts him in a much better position for when the Conor rematch does happen, which I do see it happening in the future. Right, so Poirier's 27-6 now, after that knockout win over Conor McGregor at the weekend. 13 knockouts, 7 submissions, 7 decisions. His losses are 2 knockouts, 2 submissions and 2 decisions. And he has fought some great guys in Matt Alvarez, Max Holloway, twice I think. He's 1-1 with Conor McGregor. He's beat Justin Gaethje. He's a few other names that don't come. Dan Hooker, who Michael Chandler beat as well this weekend. A lot of names that obviously are slipping my mind right now because that's how these things work. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about his Conor McGregor fight that just happened at the weekend. Second round knockout win, as I said, a TKO win probably. But the first round McGregor probably won. He looked very dangerous. He definitely caught Poirier once or twice. But Poirier kept in. His leg kicks were devastating. Conor wasn't doing a great job of checking them. It seemed like that was his game plan going in. I watched a post-fight interview he did with ESPN. He had Mike Brown, the American top team head coach, come out in that. And apparently that was his plan to go for the leg kicks. It definitely seemed to work. Conor wasn't checking them properly, or effectively I should say. But after he'd weakened Conor's leg, obviously the footwork and the speed disappears after the leg's gone. So that's that, and he managed to get a knockdown and then follow it up with a ground and pound against the fence, and that's that. So great win, and it does wonders for his career as well. Before that, Dan Hooker, Fight of the Year candidate for last year, went the full 5 rounds. He won the unanimous decision. Round 2 of that fight, definitely round of the year by a country mile. But yeah, great performance there, and that's what got him the Conor fight. And okay, before that, this is when he lost the UFC interim lightweight title to Khabib back in, I think it's September or October of 2019. He got submitted in the 3rd round, but everyone seems to lose to Khabib, so I'm not going to hold too much against him there. Alright, we'll move on to Michael Chandler now. He's, like I said earlier, this is his UFC debut. He's 22-5 now after that performance against Dan Hooker. 10 knockouts, 7 submissions, 5 decisions. His losses are 3 knockouts and 2 submissions. Okay, a lot of people, this will be the first time they've seen Michael Chandler. I appreciate but nowhere near as many people watch Bellator as watch the UFC. That's just how it is because the UFC is more popular. But Michael Chandler clearly come in and made a massive statement with this win. And yeah, he looked fantastic in the very short amount of time that we've seen him in the cage. So we'll go straight into talking about his fight versus Dan Hooker. For me in this one, I think, although Chandler's knockout win was very impressive, this wasn't the Dan Hooker I've seen in the last few fights. He looked very on edge. He had a massive reach advantage and a massive height advantage. I think both 4 or 5 inches in reach and height. But he just seemed cagey, I want to say, that he wasn't sure. Obviously, he'll have looked at Chandler's record and know that his 2 fights before were both first-round knockouts, and he'll have been eager to avoid that. Obviously, that's not what happened. He did get knocked out in the first round. But, yeah, it's... you can't really say a great deal about it because it was quite a short fight. But Chandler's definitely made his mark on the UFC. Let's not forget Dustin Poirier, who we've talked about, had to go 5 rounds to get a decision against Dan Hooker. Dan Hooker's got a great chin. We've seen him take shots off some great guys. So Michael Chandler's power's really something to behold from the looks of it. Okay, before that, he fought Benson Henderson, his last fight in Bellator. Again, another first round knockout in this one. Very similar, there's not a great deal to say. He just seems to back and forth a little bit and then get a massive knockdown and then follow up with ground and pound. Again, with his fight against Sydney Outlaw before that, very similar. All of these fights taken under 3 minutes for him to finish and get a knockout. So he's looked very good ever since his loss to Patricio Pitbull back in 2019, I think, where he lost the Bellator lightweight title. Okay, so we'll do a side-by-side now. Striking, grappling, fight IQ, and chin. Sorry, not fight IQ. Striking, grappling, chin, gas tank, and level of past opponents. I'm going to write these down one day because I seem to forget every time. Right, striking first of all. I'm going to have to put it down the middle. Both give it to him equally, because I think although Michael Chandler in his last fight has got 3 first round knockouts, I think Poirier's probably got more technical striking, let's say, probably less of a power puncher, but better boxing technique, better hands and feet, and let's not forget Poirier's leg kicks, especially from the past weekend. So I think it'd be very even in the striking. Okay, grappling on the other hand, I'm gonna just edge it to Poirier. Michael Chandler has got great wrestling experience. Division 1 wrestler, I believe, at Missouri University. But Poirier's grappling's been very good. He's fought some very high level grapplers. He got a great submission win over Anthony Pettis. He's got a total of 7 submission wins, as does Chandler for what it's worth. But I just feel like Poirier's probably got the high level grappling, definitely the high level jiu-jitsu. Chandler may have a bit better wrestling, but I think if it goes to the ground, the fight definitely favours Poirier. Okay, chin. Both of them have only been knocked out 2 times, but... Sorry, no, Chandler's been knocked out 3 times, Poirier's been knocked out twice. Poirier's going to get the advantage in the chin, purely because of the people he's fought. The only people who have knocked him out are Conor McGregor and Michael Johnson. And the Michael Johnson one, I don't know if anyone's seen that fight. It was 2016, I think, but it was a bit of a weird one anyway. Okay, gas tank. It's going to go to Poirier all the way on this one. He seems to have a second gear when it gets to the second or third round in fights. He just seems to come into his own. I've never seen him look anywhere close to gassing, with the exception of a Khabib fight. He's gone 5 rounds with Max Holloway, 5 rounds with Dan Hooker. He's went the best part of 5 rounds with Justin Gaethje before he got the finish. So, and Michael Chandler, his fights tend to be a lot shorter on average. So Poirier's definitely getting the gas tank advantage there. But that's not to say Chandler doesn't have a great gas tank. It's just in the last 2 years he's got less than 10 minutes of total cage octagon time. So you've got to think about, look at it recently to see where they've been. Okay, last but not least, notable past opponents. Got to go to Poirier all the way on this one. And to be fair to Chandler, you can only fight who you've put in front of you. Dan Hooker, though, is probably the biggest name on his record. You could argue Eddie Alvarez and Benson Henderson both being former UFC champions, but he didn't fight them when they were UFC champions. He fought them a few years later. So for my money, Dustin Poirier's definitely got the advantage when it comes to past experience with high-level opposition. Okay, path to victory for both fighters. We'll do Dustin Poirier first. I think he's got the criteria and the game plan nailed with the leg kicks, to be honest, that he used against Conor McGregor. I don't see why that wouldn't work against Michael Chandler. I appreciate Chandler has a bit of a shorter stance than McGregor, which obviously with a long stance it does make it harder to check the leg kicks. But chew up the leg, maybe go for the takedown, but wait to catch him with something and go about it that way. I think that's Poirier's best chance. So if he did fight, he'd probably be looking at a second or third round TKO win for Poirier, in my opinion. Chandler, on the other hand, I don't see why he should go away from what's won him his last 3 fights. Look for a big punch in the first round, big right hand coming over the top. And I think that's probably his best course of action. I think if this fight went out of the first round, it would give Poirier a massive advantage just because of his high-level experience. But Chandler, that's not to say he can't compete later in the fight. It's just that we haven't seen a lot of it recently. It'd be a very exciting fight to watch and something I'm really looking forward to happening as well because it moves the lightweight division on. Okay, so my pick for this fight, I'm going to go for Poirier by third round knockout. And yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see Chandler win either. I think it'll be a very good fight. And yeah, that's my pick though, Poirier by third round knockout. Okay, final thoughts on this fight. Like I said earlier, Poirier's currently saying he's not interested in this. And you can definitely make the argument that Chandler, after only beating Dan Hooker, doesn't deserve a title fight. But at the same time, who else is going to fight for the title? Dustin Poirier's definitely one half of the title fight. I don't think many people would argue with that anymore. But I think Khabib's pretty much said he's out now. So I think you need to get a title fight done by May at the latest. And I think the only people who will be ready to fight for a title by May who deserve it, let's say, are Poirier and Chandler. People arguing Charles Oliveira, and yes, I can see the argument for that, but I will point out that he is on an 8-fight win streak, but with the exception of Kevin Lee, and obviously his very dominant win over Tony Ferguson, they're not top 10 names that he's been beating. And I appreciate Chandler, he's only beaten one guy in the top 10, but he's new to the organisation. He's a breath of fresh air, let's say, in the division that has got a lot of talent in it already. So, yeah, I think this is going to be the title fight. I'd suggest it'd probably be the May pay-per-view, if not June. It looks like we're booked up until then. So, yeah, that's my roundup of this fight, I suppose. I imagine it'll take place in May. Hopefully they'll have fans back for this one, and it'll be a great way to crown a new lightweight champion after Khabib's held the division up for the last 3 years. Okay, so thanks for watching today. This has been Octagon Control MMA. I'm Dan. Please like and subscribe. Hope everyone has a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow.